Hello, and welcome to the finals of the 2020 Corcoran Case Competition, The Future of Housing. I'm Taylor Perkins, Assistant Director of the Joseph E. Corcoran Center for Real Estate and Urban Action at the Boston College Carroll School of Management. Affordable housing is one of the defining issues of our day. The Corcoran Case Competition challenges interdisciplinary teams of Boston College students to solve a real-world affordable housing case while considering not only the economic returns of the project, but also the social returns and the interests of the community. This year, over 90 undergraduate students participated in the Corcoran Case Competition. I would like to thank the Inland Group and Boston Capital, and congratulations to all of the students who participated in this year's competition.
Thank you for your interest in the Corcoran Center Case Competition. My name is Neil McCullough, and I'm the Executive Director of the Corcoran Center. 11 teams responded to the case challenge, working collaboratively and remotely to produce competitive and thoughtful responses. Alumni judges representative of multiple disciplines then reviewed each proposal and selected 3 finalists. These proposals presented the most persuasive and the most well-reasoned responses. This year, because of the public health crisis, teams will be presenting to the finalist judges via an online video conference. It is my pleasure to introduce to you the Corcoran Center Case Competition judges for the final round. Our judges are each distinguished professionals from different disciplines within the housing industry. Adam Galowitz is a managing director with State Street Bank and the Trust Advantaged Investment Group, where he has assembled and managed a portfolio of approximately $1.2 billion invested in more than 60 low-income housing, tax credit, and preservation funds. His work at State Street Bank has led to the production and rehabilitation of more than 1,200 properties and more than 110,000 units of housing for low and moderate income households, totaling more than $23 billion in aggregate real estate value. Prior to State Street, he founded Hesper Real Estate Advisors and worked as an analyst at Recap Advisors. Adam received a BA from Cornell University in American Studies. Crystal Cornegay is the Executive Director of Mass Housing. Before joining Mass Housing, she served as Undersecretary of Housing and Community Development for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Prior to that, she served as President and CEO of the Community Development Corporation, Urban Edge, in Boston, Mass. She also previously served as a project manager for the Community Builders. She's a graduate of the executive program at Harvard University's Kennedy School of Government. She has a master's degree in urban planning from MIT and a bachelor's degree in urban planning from Hunter College. Crystal is a member of MBTA's Fiscal Management and Control Board and a member of the Board of Directors for the Massachusetts Department of Transportation. A special thanks to Crystal and Mass Housing for their continued support of our students and all Corcoran Center programs. Lastly, we have Michael Corcoran. Michael is the president of Corcoran Jennison Companies, a real estate and development and management firm with more than $4 billion worth of assets under management and development. Michael has been with Corcoran Jennison for more than 30 years. Presently, Michael is overseeing the expansion of Corcoran Jennison hotels in Boston, the build-out of a mixed-income community in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in partnership with the Housing Authority of the City of Pittsburgh, the expansion of the Ocean Edge Resort in Cape Cod, and the build-out of a newly acquired golf resort in New Hampshire. He is also responsible for the asset management of the Corcoran Jennison existing real estate portfolio, which is made up of more than 100 real estate partnerships with a value in excess of $4 billion. Michael is a proud graduate of Boston College, and we welcome him today, also a great supporter of the Corcoran Center at Boston College.
Located on the North Shore, 17 miles outside of Boston, Beverly, Massachusetts is a city of 41,000 residents with a rich history. Incorporated in 1686, life in Beverly initially centered around the ample waterfront through fishing and maritime trade. Beverly evolved into a center of the Industrial Revolution in North America, becoming a major manufacturing center known for the production of shoes. As manufacturing shifted away from New England during the late 20th century, Beverly's economy diversified, epitomized by the Cummings Center, a redeveloped manufacturing complex that today is home to over 2 million square feet, hosting a diverse array of knowledge and other companies. Beverly's evolution continues today amidst a strong regional economy. 2 MBTA commuter rail stops and a major highway within city limits link Beverly closely with the greater Boston region. Today, within the region and in Beverly, a profound lack of affordable housing has emerged as a defining issue. Downtown Beverly, with its close proximity to local and regional jobs, has seen a spike in new residential construction. Amidst this economic strength, Beverly faces an increasing shortage of affordable housing, with over 35% of households considered rent-burdened by the federal government. City officials estimate that Beverly needs an additional 2,500 units of affordable housing. Beverly is taking action to address this critical shortage of affordable housing. The city's housing plan calls for increasing amounts of multifamily housing, including mixed-use and transit-oriented development. In light of the critical shortage of affordable housing in Beverly, your development team is invited to submit proposals to transform a parcel into a mixed-use affordable housing development. 141 Elliott Street is located just outside the Beverly Central Business District, at the crossroads of several distinct land uses. It is bordered by a residential neighborhood, industrial areas, the Cummings Center, and is adjacent to active railway tracks and Massachusetts Route 62. Nearby walkable amenities include a Stop and Shop supermarket, a CVS pharmacy, and a fitness center. The site is located a half-mile walk away from downtown Beverly and is 3/4 of a mile from the Beverly Depot commuter rail stop. Currently, the site is a surface parking lot. A thoughtful redevelopment of this parcel as a mixed-use, 100% affordable housing development, taking into account the needs of the community and market conditions, will present an important step forward in Beverly's continuing evolution while creating crucially needed affordable housing for the region's residents and families.
Good morning, everyone. We are the Urban Planning Partners. We are here, very excited to be here today to propose a light tech development project, which we thought about, like the names and stuff. We decided to give a really wonderful name called Horizon Oasis. My name is James Liao, and I'm the captain of the team.
My name is Alex Chang.
My name is Leslie New.
I'm Peter.
Great. So the agenda for the day, I will firstly be talking about kind of the overview, the background of our project, as well as mentioning what it's like in the affordable housing market. And then Leslie will be talking about what is our proposal and how does that work. And then Yuxin will be talking about some of the factors that really differentiate ourselves. And then Alex will be mentioning some of the community impact that our project brings along. And then last but not least, Peter will be going through the lessons we learned throughout this couple of weeks. So project backgrounds. So I will first be talking about kind of the affordable housing market on a higher level, like a national level, and then I would do a deeper dive into the city of Beverly. So affordable housing is a national crisis with a total shortage of 7.4 million homes. The average household size in the US is about 2.52, which means that there are more than 18 million people struggling to find an affordable place to live. In addition, large amount of the low-income housing in the US are more than 50 years old. So in a few years, the number of homes shortage will be much bigger than just 7.4 million. And the graph on the left is really a snapshot of the share of cost burden renter over 10 years. The share for the past 3 years, as you can see, has not changed much, implying that more actions need to be taken to address this crisis. And our case is really focusing on the city of Beverly, and here are some of the key information we have found. Demographically, we observe that there is a growing number of senior residents, especially those who are age 65 and older. And we have also found that the household size has been decreasing over years, which is actually true not only in the city of Beverly, but across the whole nation. Economically, we observe that there's an increase in income disparity with a rising trend in both household size, household income, and poverty rate. Looking more in depth into housing, the median rent is just about $1,000. With this number, if a household is to work for minimum wage, he will only make about $20,000 a year after paying for his rent. A rent burden is a significant problem for residents in Beverly. Specifically, there are 1,350 households with severe burden, and we can see the exact breakdown on the left with the donut chart over there. Therefore, we, the urban planning partners, were really devoted to propose a potential solution to really help out the residents of the Beverly City. With that being said, I now introduce my colleague Leslie to walk us through our proposal.
Thanks, James. So given the current affordable housing situations in Beverly, we have come up with a proposal to build a housing at 141 Elliott Street, which we name it the Horizon Oasis. So now let's take a look at the proposal overview. First off, we have drawn a floor plan and a site plan showing the distribution of the residential, commercial, and communal spaces among all 4 floors, as well as a general look of the outdoor space design, including the parking space, water fountain, and green area. Please refer to the narrative for higher resolution images. And now let's move on to a brief introduction of the development team. So we have divided the development of a LIHTC program into the 4 following stages: initiation, preparation, construction, and completion. You can see each party's main involvement during the life of the project. So the developer gets involved from the very beginning of the project and serves as the general partner. It is the developer that finds and organizes a good development team and applies for the tax credits. After the program is approved, more parties will be brought on board, and they collaborate together to prepare for anything that is, needed legally, financially, community-wise, so on and so forth for the construction process. As the housing is being constructed, the team will also think about, what to do after the construction, including sourcing the tenants, getting in touch with several third parties to rent out a commercial space, etc. Overall, we believe the team is dedicated to not only creating the housing, but more importantly, addressing the needs of the tenants and the local community. So to determine a proper unit mix, we first did a few research by accessing the LIHTC database. We looked at a total of 939 LIHTC projects in Massachusetts from 1987 to 2017 in this area. Next, considering the current demographics in Beverly, where around 45% of the population are individuals, 25% are families, and 30% are seniors, we slightly increased the percentage of 1-bedroom units to around 47%, while keeping the number of 3-bedroom units at around 20% to reflect the state's needs. So our final unit is 14 units of 1-bedroom, 10 units of 2-bedroom, and 6 units of 3-bedroom. So with respect to the unit size and apartment rent pricing, here you can see 2 charts showing the comparison of the comparable sites in Beverly and our building Horizon Oasis, highlighted in yellow-green. Although our unit size is at the lower end of the comparable sites, our rent is also lower than any of the other buildings at any unit size. In a word, with fewer money spent on the rent, the residents can still live in adequate room while enjoying more benefits from the commercial and communal space usages, which will be introduced next by my colleague Yuxin.
Thank you, Leslie. Yeah, I'll talk about some factors that really set us apart here. So in terms of commercial space, we're going to be allocating around 1,900 square foot on the first floor. You guys can refer to the floor plan. On the second floor, we'll be having communal space, which is about 1,200 square foot. And then if you guys can go to the next slide, in the commercial space, we'll be having an ATM machine, a fitness center, a clinic, and a convenience store. So when it comes to commercial space, we want to pay attention to one key factor, which is the connection between our community and commercial space. we want to make sure that the community is fully engaged into our commercial space in terms of, for example, Fitness Center, they are going to be having an external membership and some factors that really engage your community here by accessing, by allowing more access in the Fitness Center. And then also, having an ATM machine here would also provide a lot of, the access for residents to solve their banking needs. Also, it allows our, from developer standpoints, to attract more partnerships with local commercial banks. We do realize that there are significant amounts of senior members here in this community, so a clinic is going to be a must. So having a clinic here is going to provide a lot of prescription and medical supplies for our community, especially under this kind of a drastic time under a coronavirus. Having convenience store here is also something that really set us apart, because the members of the community really have to go grocery shopping. And then here, we do believe that having a convenience store here, they are going to generate a fair amount of profit. So there are only two factors here we do want to pay attention to, which is the functionality of these kind of commercial space to the community, and also the financial feasibility that we do believe that once they come in, they'll make it long-term profits in their long lifespan here in the community. So you guys can go to the communal space, which is located on the second floor. We'll be having a laundry room, a daycare center, a tutor center, and then a multi-purpose room. So I'm going to go through each one of them really quick. So in terms of the daycare centers and the tutor center, we believe that part-time opportunities and volunteer opportunities are really important for our students here within the area. So having these kind of the two settings in the on the second floor, people can really provide a lot of full day and after school caring services and provide a lot of subjects caring after school. So part-time employment opportunities are really important for community members, and we believe that it's going to add value to our project. The laundry room, of course, here is going to be fully equipped and freshly equipped for our members of the community as well. Multi-purpose room later on will be setting up as a fruit distribution center for a lot of people to just move in and create a lot of more citizenship of the community. If you guys can go to the outdoor space, I'll be going over this real quick. So 20 residential parking spots are going to be saturating for every need of a resident here. If they go over the limit, they can actually just go over the street across the street to access more. So planting beds, water fountain, and front plaza would just be, make us a vibrant neighborhood of the city of LA here. That being said, I think Alex is going to be talking about some community benefits. Thank you.
Thank you, Yuxin. I'm going to be speaking about the economic benefits and social benefits to all parties involved in this deal proposal. And then after that, I'm going to briefly discuss the financial feasibility in the proposal itself. So first of all, the economic benefits. As you can see, this deal is expected to benefit all parties involved economically. From an investor perspective, they will get a depreciating tax shield and on top of their tax credit, so they will be well compensated. And from a developer perspective, they commit to little to non-initial capital commitment due to the structure of a light tech transaction. And according to our modeling, as much as 84.1% of the development fee will be paid upfront. From a community standpoint, our first floor commercial space is expected to generate more than 10 job opportunities. And if they are all locally sourced from our own tenants, that means that 13% of our tenants are going to find a job. From a resident perspective, it's a low-income housing, so they're going to be paying lower rent, which means they are not going to be as rent burdens as the prior illustration has shown. From the community as a whole, our daily amenities are really expected to hit the impact of the whole community, including gym, convenience store, etc. From a social benefit perspective, investors now is a really hot topic for impact investing, and we think that this is a really opportunity for investors to do well by doing good. From a developer standpoint, it's really good to know that they are creating safe, multifunctional, managed housing for low-income households. From a community standpoint, we think this deal will create economic diversity, while for residents, it's going to generate employment and easy access to public transportation. From a community standpoint as a whole, we think this is providing a means of redistribution of wealth and opportunities in the long term. From a financial feasibility standpoint, we expect this transaction to cost as much as 16.5 million in total, which comes from a very diverse sources of debt and equity. And we have built in actually extra cushions from both debt and equity standpoint to guarantee that this deal will have adequate capital for it to go through. For example, we have extra basis in tax credit so that when we're applying for credit, the credit agency will be looked favorable upon. We also have a more than 50% buffer built in for soft debt, meaning we only need as little as $2.3 million of soft debt when we have an estimated total of $5.7 million available. Going to soft debt, my colleague Peter will touch base on that.
Thank you, Alex. So in order to increase the financial feasibility of our project, we've decided to take 2.3 million soft debts in addition to the 4.9 million permanent loans. And while we're also eligible for a total of 5.7 million, we're applying for the following three programs you can see on the slide for a total of 2.3 million. The rest can be applied if anything went south. That being said, let's now move to the lessons we learned throughout this project. As a start, it is challenging to coordinate with the government regulations. For example, the income restrictions for the residents and the rent control policies that set out a maximum rent for each type of the apartments, while we're still trying to maintain the project financially feasible through various funding sources. Secondly, we found it hard to create a full residential experience while coping with the level of affordability. So as a solution, we've created, like my colleague Yushin said before, both communal and commercial spaces in order to provide a higher level of convenience for the residents. However, commercial spaces occupancy could be another challenging subject. We're not 100% certain that the commercial spaces will be profitable given the location and population density of the neighborhood area. So therefore, the ability to attract and retain tenants for commercial spaces remain uncertain at this point. And collaboration among team members is also another difficult subject for us to keep looking at in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, I would have a question on your design, which is very detailed and very good, and just kind of your schematic design here. How were you able to do that, and what sources did you use, and did you give consideration to the costs of a typical unit would be stacked with an above, and you had different bedroom counts on different floors. Did you give any consideration to the cost?
So the overall structure of the floor plan was designed so that while we have different units on different floors, the third and fourth floor are identical, and the second and the first floor have the same interior walls as the third and fourth floor. So from a structural integrity standpoint, this building is expected to last. While we just because the second and first floor compensate for the commercial and communal space, we had more smaller 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom than our 3 bedrooms on the third and fourth floor. The extra space that we saved from that are used for those purposes.
Thank you.
So I had first of all, wonderful graphics on the presentation. A question about the diversity of the various commercial uses. There's a fairly robust set of ground floor users here between the daycare center, the fitness center, the tutoring center. I'm wondering if you could just elaborate a little bit on how you would anticipate getting those diverse users in there and making use of what is a somewhat tight site.
Yeah, well, first of all, I just want to correct something because for the tutor center, which is a nonprofit, which is situated on the second floor of our building, which is defined as a communal space instead of a commercial space, because we want to make sure that spot is open up for student opportunities to just go in and provide some part-time or even volunteer instead of making it as a profit spot. So if you can go back to sort of a commercial space, yeah, we actually thought about fitness center, how that's resource is going to set us apart. We do realize we actually have a gym right across the street, but because we are here at, you guys can refer to the floor plan, we're going to be having two entrances to the gym. One entrance is going to be inside of the building that allows people to just go in. For example, there will be open up for our residents here in the community, and then also there will be open up for the public. So that really creates a huge amount of flows here to go into the gym that really increase memberships and financial feasibility for the center as well. ATM machine, in terms of diversity, we do want to make sure that a lot of commercial banks can have partnership with us so that they can set up a spot here to provide an ATM or even a commercial branch. So clinic, clinic is something that we thought about. We're looking at about 4 to 9 staff members for our clinic. So it really provides a lot of employment opportunities for this kind of a setup as well. Having 2 doctors, 2 nurses, maybe some receptionists in the front door. It really creates a lot of diversity within the area as well. So that answers your questions.
Is your unit mixed with the ones? Are you going to target elderly, or is that just going to be small family as well? Is it not restricted to elderly?
So for the
Sorry, what is that?
yeah. So basically for the unit mix, since we're considering there, are a huge amount of individual, around like 45% in the neighborhood, we'll mainly be targeting for the 1-bedroom unit, will be mainly target those individuals as well as small families. Whereas, for seniors, we might, consider that they will be like probably living with their like, kids together. So probably like a 2-bedroom or even like 3-bedroom units will be like more suitable for seniors.
Did you anticipate college age or older students, or are you thinking that the tutoring would be for students, families that were there with younger kids?
I'm not sure if I get the question correctly, but we do think that this tutor center is for the family with younger kids. And for those who are, for example, in college or high school, they are suitable for the part-time employment as the tutor for those younger students. I don't know if that answers your question.
Gotcha. I guess the question is, I thought when I was reading the package that, and maybe I misread this, with that some of the 1-bedrooms were being targeted to essentially a student population. Was I mistaken in that?
Yeah, I think, well, when we were doing the research, basically what we found is that the largest population for the area, in terms of now, like going into 5 years, 10 years, would be largely seniors. And then the second largest would be the people with the age 18 to 24. So we still anticipate a lot of kind of young adults as well as high school graduate or like college students. So that's why, so if you look at the demographic, right, we have the largest amount being seniors and then the second largest being kind of non-elderly individual. That's why we kind of devote such a large amount of our unit become 1-bedroom to kind of adjust that need.
Yeah, something I just want to add on to this tutor center part. you can think of it as a seminar room that really opens up for everybody, but you can, all you need to do is just have the access or appointment to go into that room. Even the Beverly community, if someone wants to come in to tutor someone, get the extra change or something, or should have a part-time employment there in the center by just tutoring somebody within the seminar room, they can just set up an appointment with our, management agents to get in to the spot. It just, something to keep in mind.
As far as your laundry facility, so nobody has in-unit washer and dryers. Is that correct?
Yes, and that's why we have a laundry room as the communal service.
Mm-hmm.
And from a cost perspective, again, forgive me if I misread the proposal, but it looked to me like you were anticipating that for residents, daycare, laundry, convenience store access was essentially a free or included amenity. Is that correct, or were you expecting that those services like daycare, for instance, would be at an additional cost?
I think we expect those costs to be included in the rent. Not necessarily so as that they are paying extras for those services. It's just that those services are more like a P2P, person-to-person service provider, meaning that it's really a public space free for appointments. And if, let's say, you need to drop your kids to the daycare center, you can arrange in your own time to pay someone else to have that daycare provided for you. And it's really if you need it, use it kind of basis. Same goes for the tutor center and multi-purpose room. So in that way, if you don't have a kid, if you don't need a tutor center and don't need a daycare, you will not be paying any cost associated with that. And if you do, there is a free place provided for you, given that you can find someone to provide you with that need.
And on the daycare, did you take into consideration all the state requirements of daycare and the square footage per?
We had did some research that says that the minimum square footage per child in daycare is around 40 square foot, I believe, something more or less. And we estimate that our daycare space will total around 200 square foot, which loosely translates to around 5 child. We think that more than satisfies the needs, as we planned it to be not a revenue income location. It's just some place that where people can hang out.
Did you do any, this is Crystal, did you do any research around the bedroom mix and the requirements that go along with the low-income housing tax credit in Massachusetts?
Yeah, so with respect to the unit mix, we have done some research. So on the slide, you can see, on the left side is our research on a total of 939 projects in the Massachusetts state alone. And we look at, a lifespan around 30 years. And we found that the current unit mix in Massachusetts for all the LIHTC projects is, about like 23% for 3 bedrooms, 34% for 1 bedroom, as well as 43% for 2 bedrooms. So that we consider that as the current supply of the projects. As well as for the current state's regulation, we also did some research. And one thing we kept in mind is like the states requires to have a minimum of 10%, 3-bedroom units in a LIHTC project. And currently we have 20%, which correspond to a total of 6 units, of a 30-unit apartment. So we consider that to be sufficient as well. So overall, as I've mentioned a little bit in the presentation, is that we have considered the current demographic in the city of Beverly, and we slightly adjusted, the percentages for each unit size to finally get this number of unit mix.
And I'll jump in for just 1 second, and I'll pause your timer. I just wanted to note to everybody that the requirements for the unit mix and for income levels as well are simplified in this case and don't reflect exactly the Massachusetts requirements, of which there are several that we omitted just for the purpose of this being an undergraduate case. Okay, please continue.
If I may, I was wondering if the team could clarify of the various common and/or commercial spaces, which of those were you anticipating are revenue producing?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So yeah, for financial feasibility is something that we want to look at. The reason why I listed those financial, sort of the ratios up there, just provided you could have sense how profitable they're going to be in the next 5 years to just, make sure they are going to be able to pay the rents, right? So fitness center, of course, is going to be the big one. Convenience store will be a second one. We do expect like EBITDA margin around like 30%. So they make sure they have enough like operating income to go around, enough cash flow to sustain, here in the community.
I just want to add it to Yushin that for our commercial spaces, the fitness center, ATM, clinic, and convenience store, we're charging them rent, and rent for these commercial spaces is our source of income from these commercial vendors.
Thank you.
So we have just about 1 minute left if there are any final questions.
We've got the time. I guess I'll ask about the under the feasibility. There was a derived investor IRR of north of 16%. I was wondering if you could talk about the methodology that led to that analysis.
That's part of the Excel modeling, right? And the narrative portion, not on the PowerPoint.
The narrative,
so, are you speaking to the investor or the developer?
The investor. I think it was 16.4%.
Yes. So I think I had some illustration on this on the PowerPoint as well from an economic perspective for investors, in that I technically included the depreciating tax shield that they were able to claim. Basically, I assume that if the investor can pay less taxes by claiming depreciation on their rental properties. And since, although there's not much cash flow, I added those cash flows to be attributed to free cash flows after debt pay downs to be attributed to investors. Since after the equity purchase, they would own as much as 99.99% of the federal and 100% of the state equity. For a tax credit perspective, I think I did an even distribution for the next 5 to 10 years, because when you apply for tax credit, I don't think you can get it the total amount right off the front. Other than that, I used a cost of capital, considering that we're using a combination of hard and soft debt, and the soft debt technically has a cost of 0% in certain scenarios. The weighted average of those drives the cost of capital down, which means it actually increases our expected return. So it's from a pure tax credit perspective, the investor is not going to generate nearly as much as what the IRR suggests. But if you take into the depreciation, the extra cash flow, all into account and the low cost of capital, I think this is possible.
So good morning, all. We hope everyone is staying safe and healthy during these uncertain times. My name is Wendy, and I'm here with my team from the Boston College Group. Today, we will be presenting our proposal for the site at 141 Elliott Street in Beverly, Massachusetts, where we propose the construction of the Shoe at Beverly. Before we dive into our proposal, I'd like to introduce the BCG team to everyone. Joining me today, we have Billy Kahn, Ivan Ip, Kelly Jiang, and Gordon Chang. Here's our agenda for the morning. We will begin by giving a brief overview of the Beverly neighborhood. Then we'll move into our proposal for the area and discuss local partnerships. Following that, we will discuss the community impact, including both the social impact and the financial feasibility for our proposal. Then we will highlight our key development goals. Finally, we'll conclude our presentation with the lessons we learned throughout this process. So to begin, I'll give a brief overview on the Beverly neighborhood that we will be developing this project in. Beverly is a city located on the North Shore of Boston with an increasing need for affordable housing. Currently, 12% of all housing in Beverly is classified as affordable housing. However, 35% of their residents are rent burdened, and over 17% of residents are spending more than 50% of their income on their housing. Within this group that's spending over 50% of their income on their housing, almost a third of them are seniors. Thus, we see a growing need to build housing in Beverly, especially for the senior community. This is why seniors are one of our target demographics. Now, to share a little bit more about the city of Beverly as a whole, a key landmark of Beverly is the Cummings Center. The Cummings Center is located just a 10-minute walk away from our site and is the largest employment center in all of Beverly. The Cummings Center replaced the United Shoe Machinery Company, USMC, which was Beverly's largest employer in the early 1900s. Our 100% affordable housing development is titled The Shoe, paying homage to USMC. Gordon will dive into the specifics of our proposal for The Shoe on the next slide.
Thank you, Wendy. So our proposal for The Shoe consists of a 30,000 square feet mixed-use apartment building. With 4 floors, this 30-unit project is broken down into 21 bedroom units of 650 square feet, 7 2-bedroom units of 750 square feet, and 3 3-bedroom units of 950 square feet. The total square footage used for the residential units is 21,100 square feet, which gives us a total efficiency factor of 70%, which is well within real estate development standards. We believe that this mix of units can best accommodate senior citizens as well as new families or low-income families. The ground floor units will be set back 5 feet in order to increase privacy as well as decrease street noise. In addition, we plan to have a community room open to residences and even companies if they want to have any presentations, events, etc. And as well, we also have a commercial space that is 1,921 square feet that is situated on the corner of Elliott and Beckford Street in order to maximize visibility. In addition, there are also 30 parking spots, roughly corresponding 1 per unit. On the next slide, I will go more in depth on how we're going to utilize this commercial space. So in a newspaper article that we read in the case, we found that Beverly residences were worried that affordable housing developments are squeezing out small businesses. And one of our goals is to uplift and support our local community. So we wanted to use this opportunity to support local owned business. And we envisioned that this space can be used as a gathering spot for residences and the community. So preferably we could have something that is in the food service industry and is also affordable, which is why we have the example of a bagel shop. We believe that a bagel shop can best accommodate the needs of our residences because it would open up early so that seniors can get their morning breakfast or workers can go grab a breakfast or a coffee like on their way to work. And this would be a counter style and a grab and go type of business. So it's not a sit down restaurant, but a place where you can just like grab something quick and convenient. And given that, we believe that space used for something like a bagel shop is a popular option for residences and can best accommodate their needs. And with that said, I will hand this over to Kelly to talk more about our community partners.
Thanks, Gordon. So BCG will also bring social and economic benefits to the community through partnering with rural organizations like Beverly Main Streets and Beverly Bootstraps. Beverly Main Streets was started by a group of small business owners and was focused on developing downtown Beverly through promoting and protecting small businesses that might be pushed out by larger chain stores. Through a partnership between Beverly Main Streets and the Shoes Bagel Shop, It will empower the downtown district by attracting customers, including senior residents, families, corporate employees, and also shoppers to this area. As a whole, this partnership will strengthen the economic vitality of our locally owned businesses and downtown Beverly. Through the SHU co-sponsoring large community events like the annual Arts Fest, we'll also leverage Beverly's unique cultural and historical assets and its small town charm. Another collaboration that we would have would be with Beverly Bootstraps. Beverly Bootstraps is a neighborhood service center and it provides the community with resources like food, housing stability, and adult and youth education. And given the seniors, residents, and families living in our area, the key aspect of our project is building these intergenerational relationships among our seniors and families in our community space through classes like yoga, arts and crafts, and cooking. Our community partnerships also extend with financial institutions and healthcare providers, and these groups will also engage our residents and aid in their personal development. Within the local Cummings Center are Bank of America, Cornerstone Financial Partners, and Summit Financial Partners, and these groups will offer their financial services to our residents and educate them on topics including retirement savings, mobile banking, and personal money management. Our partnerships with healthcare providers like Melrose Wakefield Healthcare, New Horizons at Choate, and Principal Healthcare will also improve our residents' mental and physical well-being by informing them about insurance policies, insurance providers, and also how to select and have proper physician care. And now I'll hand it over to Billy, who will talk about the social implications of our development and the financial feasibility.
Thank you, Kelly. So now that we talked about some of the specific partnerships that we want to have with some of the local businesses, we wanted to take a big picture look at the social impact of our development on the city of Beverly. Obviously, one of the major benefits is providing these affordable housing units to Beverly's low-income and senior citizen communities. When combined with some of the partnerships with the financial institutions, we believe this will increase financial flexibility by lessening the rent burden, as well as helping the residents better manage their money and letting them have more to spend on other necessities such as food and transportation. In addition, we believe that the benefits for the city of Beverly and the surrounding neighborhood really are much greater than they seem at first. First, we want to support local businesses, as Gordon said, by proposing our bagel shop on the ground floor, but also working with Beverly Main Streets and the Cummings Center to promote increased foot traffic, increased business to everyone, not just the bagel shop. And part of this is also job creation. So in our bagel shop, obviously, we'll have we'll create some jobs there. We'll have management, on-site management services, and construction is another point that we wanted to make sure wasn't left unseen. In our proposal, it's a small little point, but we wanted to make sure that some of the construction contracts would be offered to minority and women-owned business enterprises to increase, the diversity of the working community within Beverly. Lastly, we believe if some of the seniors moving into this development are moving from maybe some of their single-family homes, this frees up some of their houses for new families that may want to move into Beverly for the small town charm, as Kelly mentioned earlier. This has the effect of increasing density while creating little impact on the school system and while increasing real estate taxes. And now that we talked about the development itself, we wanted to make sure that it was financially feasible. All the details are in the Excel workbook, but we wanted to draw out the key points here, which are that total development costs will be just over $16 million. And this is sourced from 5 different sources of funds. The main one being federal LIHTC equity, being $7.8 million, making up about half of our capital stack. State LIHTC equity comes in at $1.3 million, hard debt at $4.4 million, and soft debt is a combination of 5 different sources from from the state and city agencies, and that totals just under $3 million. We also have a deferred developer fee, and that's the little blue end of the capital stack there, but it's only 2.5% of the total developer fee that we're deferring. Now on to operating cash flows. We have years 1 through 3 and year 5. We believe it wasn't necessary to put all of the years on this slide, as growth, income growth factors and expense growth factors remain constant in this model. But the key points here is that debt service coverage ratio will increase and maintain at 1.15 level, as well as the deferred developer fee will be fully paid off within 2 years. So after 2 years, all of the cash flow will be distributable. And now I'll hand it off to Ivan for the wrap up.
Thank you, Billy. Overall, this project addresses the city's need for more affordable housing. As Wendy has mentioned before, 30% of all rent-burdened individuals in Beverly are seniors. This number of 395 seniors is expected to almost double to 600 by 2030. This project also meets the needs of the community. For example, the 2,000 square feet multi-purpose room allows local organizations and companies to host workshops and activities, while the 1,921 square feet bagel shop will serve as a gathering spot for seniors, small families, and corporate workers from the Cummings Center. As we can see, this project not only impacts the residents who will live there, but also the larger Beverly community. And in terms of cases learned, we learned that there are numerous roles and the LIHTC development process is very complex. For example, we learned about how the developer takes on additional risk because they have to guarantee that the project is feasible for both the lenders and the investors. In addition, the management agent has to achieve the occupancy rates required by the LIHTC to satisfy the LIHTC requirements. We also recognize the difficulty in finding comparable soft debt funding given the different requirements and guidelines for each program and agency. In terms of compatibility and feasibility, we originally wanted to have a Trader Joe's. However, this idea was not feasible for 3 reasons. First, the average Trader Joe's is 15,000 square feet, and this exceeds the commercial space area that is given. Secondly, we didn't have enough parking spots for all of the shoppers for Trader Joe's, given our limited 30 parking spots, which is allocated to to seniors and to management. Lastly, we recognized that there were numerous grocery stores in the neighborhood, including a Stop and Shop across the street, which made less sense to have a Trader Joe's. Because of these reasons, we wanted to have a local community space that would really emphasize small businesses while supporting the development of and empowering senior citizens. And as a result, we wanted to have a bagel shop for our first floor location. Through this case study, we've learned that 12% affordable housing in Beverly is simply not enough. And we hope that our project will bring more attention to that and will help improve the affordable housing problem in Beverly. With that being said, that concludes our presentation. Thank you so much for listening, and we will now open it up for any questions.
Could you give me a little more detail on the community room? It's generous, 2,000 square feet. Is that, you mentioned maybe it serves both the population of the development, but maybe some other community groups? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead and go.
Okay, yeah. So we envision the space that can be used obviously like by residents, but also maybe companies like Beverly Bootstraps or people from the Cummings Center to host like workshops or events or any other like informal way to like educate people or like bring people together. So we just envision the space to be like open to people to use.
Yeah. So is it an open space, or is there some type of furnishings in it that would attract those type of groups?
I think we were thinking that a small kitchenette, possibly. We could have, cooking. We really want the space to be a space for residents to bond with each other, especially given our demographic of um, given the demographic of seniors and families. We wanted them to kind of mingle together. So with any, classes that might go on, they might be like cooking classes. We might have some small exercise equipment, a kitchenette, but nothing is permanent in the room. It's going to be a multi-purpose room that can be, flipped around for different purposes.
And in addition to that, we wanted to emphasize that seniors may not be able to travel to far away places in order to receive these events or workshops, or to even take part in these local activities. So we wanted to really emphasize the idea of having local partnerships and the local coming centers to really come here and empower our residents and provide different activities and workshops for them.
Can you talk a little bit more about the mixing of the seniors with the family population and kind of how you envision that working out?
Right, so we want to address this increased need for senior housing, but also provide the space for workers or small income families. I think we wanted to focus on both groups because we wanted to foster these relationships. It's really important for the elderly to interact with other people, especially younger people. And as a whole, we wanted to focus on strengthening community relationships, integrating people from different generations and providing this sense of community. So not just seniors and small families in our residences, but also people within the greater Beverly community as well. So seeing them interact with each other in the commercial space, in the community room, having these like community-wide events and people come in as well for educational purposes. I think having a mix of these two age demographics would be really important, not just for benefiting seniors and their mental and physical well-being, but also just providing a sense of community as well.
I was wondering if you could elaborate on two aspects of the development plan that I took note of. One was the diversity goals, whether or not you could flesh out what your aspirations are there. And also, I think you had mentioned going after LEED certification. I'm wondering how prominent that role that played in your development of your sources and uses.
As for the minority and women business-owned enterprises integration into our construction contracts, we didn't have a set goal as of now, but through the research that I've seen, looking at some of the RFPs and the proposals of other developments, I've seen numbers like 20% of all construction contracts going to minority and women-owned businesses, and we think that if we could reach that point or even higher, that would be something that we would love to see. As for LEED certification, we didn't take it into consideration for the sources and uses, but we did imagine the world moving into, even if it's not LEED certified, moving into a more sustainable universe. So any development that we would want to create would hopefully have some sort of sustainable features, and bottom line, it also impacts the finances of the residences as well, of the people living in the residences.
Could you just refresh me on the Beverly bootstraps and how they integrate with the project?
So Beverly Bootstraps is a neighborhood service center. It's located in Beverly, and it provides the community with resources. So they have food projects, so feeding the community, housing stability, and adult and youth education. So for adults, education for people who English is not their first language. They would have classes for that. For youth as well, like SAT testing, and just having that community be able to collaborate with us. This would give the seniors and families in our residence the ability to build these intergenerational relationships in terms of education and just integrating the two groups. And through classes, so Beverly Bootstraps also offers educational, but also other events like arts classes. There's other groups in the community that Beverly Bootstraps could bring in. So bringing them into our community space and having classes like yoga, arts and crafts, like maybe educational classes, so teaching SAT prep for the people living in our residences, cooking classes, and just in general providing our community with resources. I think Beverly Bootstraps, that's what their mission is, and I think that really goes along with BCG's mission as well.
How far are they from your site?
Beverly Bootstraps is located in downtown Beverly, if I am not mistaken.
Thank you.
But I think the most important aspect is to have other groups come in, since our seniors, as Ivan mentioned before, aren't able to necessarily travel outside of our residences or travel very long distances. So Beverly Bootstraps is within this neighborhood and it's very close by, and they'd be able to come in and be able to offer these resources to our residents.
Were there other businesses that you considered besides the bagel shop?
Yeah, we chose the idea of a bagel shop because it was something that can accommodate like our working class population and our senior population because they open early. But we also envision probably like something similar to like a deli or even a bodega, like something that can provide like coffee and like a quick bite before you head to work. But we definitely wanted something within like the food service industry, but something that was not franchised in order to stay in line with our goals to support local businesses.
Just back to the multi-purpose room and the kind of tie-in with the Cummings space, the Cummings office park. You have not anticipated charging the Cummings folks for use of that. That's basically a service to the residents if they wanted to provide educational opportunities. Is that right?
That's correct. I think in terms of having financial institutions come in and provide their services to our residents, we thought that the relationship would be beneficial mutually, because these local financial organizations are able to offer their services to our residents and provide them education, but these residents will also become long-term clients of these institutions and these corporations as well. And so through building these long-term partnerships, BCG thought that this would be beneficial on both ends. So we wouldn't be charging them a fee to come in and offer this educational service, but in the long term, our residents would become like long-term financial clients of companies like Bank of America and Cornerstone Financial Partners.
The units themselves are washer and dryers, or is it a laundry room situation?
So I would say that our plan is to have laundry rooms within each floor. Although we didn't incorporate it into our development budget or really the financials, our idea of having laundry on each floor would help seniors who don't want to lug around laundry from floor to floor. Maybe if you only had it on the ground floor, you wouldn't want the seniors going down and up every time to do their laundry. I know that there can be laundry hookups in each unit, and that's something that would require more analysis into for, you know, the development budget and the finances side of things.
Can you talk a little bit about how you optimized or right-sized the soft funding sources? So I see you have some kind of pretty specific amounts, 250,000 for the CPA, 450 for the HP. Kind of how did you arrive at those respective amounts?
Yeah, so for the soft debt sources, I tried to take a look at other projects in Beverly with similar total development costs or similar number of units. In the Excel spreadsheet as well as the proposal, I have linked some of the sources that I found where Anchor Point and Cabot Housing jump out as the two biggest ones. They got, I believe they got CPA funding for the same amount that we're proposing, as well as I believe the Affordable Housing Trust Fund funding, same amount as us. As for the other ones, workforce housing, we decided to apply for the 100,000 per unit for the family units and not the senior units, in case, in line with the mission of the workforce housing initiative. Yeah.
Good morning, I'm Mike Moretta.
I'm Phil Giordano.
And I'm Grayson Cohen, and we are Golden Eagle Development Group. And this is our presentation on the Elliott Exchange in Beverly, Massachusetts. So to kick things off here, I'm just going to walk through the agenda for our presentation. I'm going to cover Beverly overview, the property overview, and the Beverly housing market. Then Mike's going to take over. He's going to cover the development proposal, commercial space, and the community engagement that we'll be taking part in. Then Phil's going to take over and cover the economic and social benefits of our development, as well as the financing. At the end, we're then going to reconvene to cover some lessons that we learned throughout this process. So to kick things off, Beverly is located roughly 35 minutes north of Boston and has a population of just over 43,000 citizens. One interesting factoid about this is that as of 2015, there was about 6,500 senior citizens in the area. And especially by 2030, this will actually exceed 23% of the overall population. However, some graphics that we saw show that it could be 20 to 30% as well. Further, the area median income in Beverly is actually just under 80,000, which is higher than Boston's average. However, this is not actually indicative of a strong affordable housing market in Beverly, even if the city does technically meet their affordable housing quotas. This is due to, there's actually a tremendous affordability gap in Beverly's housing market, and residents fear that this will only consider be exacerbated in the future, as there's more and more development that is not affordable. So the site is just over half an acre, and it's currently a surface parking lot. One interesting fact about the site is that it's actually the convergence of a low-density residential zone, light industrial, commercial, and it's sandwiched between two sets of train tracks. And while there's a lot going on here, as a developer, it's our job to be able to basically look at this area and determine how we can build a project that will take all these aspects into account. So we can not only be a good developer, but a good neighbor and help mitigate issues down the road. We also want to ensure that our development fits in with the neighborhood and the neighbors want to visit here. And it's a place they really enjoy. Additionally, we understand that Beverly hopes to see mixed-use, transit-oriented projects. And with 2 public transit locations and mixed uses as well, we believe that we not only meet, but exceed these goals. Part of understanding our site means analyzing the surrounding area as well. We did this by looking at nearby businesses, housing, and retailers to ensure that we were fulfilling a need for the municipality and for the people. This also helped with our market research for our commercial space, is we were able to determine that basically a restaurant, food, or pharmacy use likely would not succeed in this area. Additionally, the Elliott Landing condo development helped establish a great design precedent for our project going forward. To further enhance our market knowledge, we utilized the free services of Placer AI, which is basically an advanced foot traffic analysis software that uses phone app tracking to help calculate traffic counts as well as retail visits within a 1% to 2% accuracy margin. This analysis helped us determine that there are indeed high traffic counts in the area, especially compared to other destinations in Beverly. For instance, the Stop and Shop located just down the road averages 60,000 visits per month from 31,000 unique customers. This is higher than traffic counts for the Shaw's in North Beverly Shopping Center, which demonstrated to us that we're not only in a retail hot area, but that Elliott Street itself is actually highly trafficked in Beverly, and it's one of the more highly trafficked areas in general. Additionally, we also realized that a lot of national tenants like being by here, which helped show us that this is not only like a great location, but it's a pretty desirable area, which is really concerning for us as developers going forwards with this project. After this, we decided to analyze the housing stock in Beverly as well to better understand what we were working with. We noticed two things. First, the housing stock in Beverly is aging. Second of all, there's a lot of affordability issues with it. And Beverly is actually a really great municipality in that they recognize this issue and they publish a community housing plan. Illustrate not only their concerns, but also how developers can fix them and how the city can fix them going down the road. We use this as a roadmap for our development to demonstrate not only our willingness to work with the city of Beverly to help resolve this issue, but to help resolve the issue of affordable housing as a whole and to work with municipalities in general. In this report, we were shocked when we read that over 1,250 adults in Beverly, aged 62 and above, earn at or below 80% AMI. Further, that 395 of them are extremely rent burdened and commit 50% of their income towards housing in general. And Beverly actually understood this and wants these people to be targeted for future housing growth, with a quote you can see here. Additionally, there's 332 applicants for senior housing in Beverly, which is about a 2 to 5 year wait, which showed us that this development really is feasible and as far as the demand standpoint goes for future tenants. This chart here just shows the growing need for senior housing and how it's a continually growing demographic in Beverly. I'm now going to pass it over to Mike for the development proposal.
Great, thanks, Grayson. So we are proposing a 30,000 square foot, 4-story, 30-unit senior-focused development. The space will have a nice big community lounge, and it will also have a rooftop garden and a place outside where seniors can hang out. And we really think that's a differentiator. Additionally, it'll have 30 parking spaces for both residents and customers of the retail space. So we wanted to get a sense of the market and A, figure out what the unit sizes are, the going unit sizes, and B, figure out what the market rates were. But because our project is 100% affordable, our rents are going to be significantly less than these. So now getting into our unit mix, we have decided upon 26 one-bedroom units and 4 two-bedroom units, and that's reflective of the senior demographic that we're targeting. We think most seniors are going to, want a one-bedroom unit unless they have a dependent or a caregiver that lives with them. And looking at these rents below, you see that they're about a 20% discount to the going market rents, and that's because we'll be offering these at affordable rates to people who make 60% or less of the AMI. And we thought long and hard about what would best fit within Beverly in terms of design. And the photo on the right is really what we envision. It's the rendering we found online, but it really looks like it could fit right on Elliott Street and Beckford Street with a nice prominent retail store, nice greenery around the sidewalks. It's well lit, it looks safe, it's modern, it's clean, and we think it'll add some vitality to the community. And then on the left, that was just our inspiration for the rooftop garden. And even though that looks like a very expensive development, we think we could, take some aspects of that and use it at the Elliott Exchange. And some of the same themes with the inside of the space. We want it to be clean, open, and modern, but we do realize that it is an affordable development. We're on a tight budget, so it can't be too extravagant. But one differentiator is that we plan to have a nice big community room, and this is especially important considering in the US, many seniors especially feel isolated and lonely, and that contributes to depression and other mental illness. So we really want this space to be just a place where they could socialize and feel at home. And now getting into some of the amenities. One of the key amenities we're offering is a shuttle service, and that'll provide shuttle to the grocery store, to perhaps the Cumming Center, perhaps doctor's appointments or other services that the seniors may need. We also plan to beautify the area, add some flowers and landscaping around the site to really, make it look like it fits in with the neighborhood and make it where people wanna come and hang out and visit these people too. And again, just a rooftop garden and community meeting space we think would be nice for that social aspect. And within each unit itself, they're going to be completely energy efficient with smart thermostats. They'll be all open floor plans and have nice large windows offering natural light. And that'll really make the units feel bigger than they actually are. And 8 of the units will be designated for people who are handicapped or with other disabilities. And of course, everything will be ADA compliant. Now, in thinking about the commercial tenant, we thought of some characteristics of an ideal tenant for our retail space. 1, they should be creditworthy and honest. 2, they should have strong store sales and profits. And 3, they should have a connection to the community and to Beverly's history. And we think the athletic footwear store checks all three of those boxes and then some. And it would really be a fresh and modern space where people would want to shop, and it also promotes a healthy lifestyle. And we performed an analysis to see whether this would be financially feasible, and that's included in the appendix, which we could talk about later. Now looking at some of our programming, this is another important aspect of our proposal. We plan to partner with the SHINE program. So they're an organization that advises seniors on their health insurance and Medicare needs. And we think this is especially important considering that, as you age, you tend to have evolving health needs. So that would be helpful for them. Second, we plan to partner with the Beverly YMCA. You want to keep these residents as healthy as possible, and also, be able to enjoy some, maybe water aerobics or yoga classes and do things to get them out of the residence. And then finally, especially in this time of coronavirus, we plan to partner with the local hospital to make sure all of our residents get their flu shots and vaccines every year. So now I'm going to pass it off to Phil, and he'll take us through some of our economic and social benefits of the project.
Thanks, Mike. So the Elliott Exchange will offer many economic and social benefits, both to its residents, the greater Beverly community, and beyond. With a rooftop community garden, our athletic footwear tenant in our first floor commercial space, and our close proximity to the walking and running trails around the Bass River and the Cummings Center property, this development will help to foster an environment for our residents to practice healthy life choices. And with the partnerships that Mike just shared with us, these will all help to make life easier on our residents as they grow older and provide equal access and opportunity to these essential services. With offering rents at affordable rates to our residents, they will in turn have more disposable income to spend at the abundance of retail and dining locations throughout Beverly. Additionally, our own first floor retail space will bring more shoppers to the area, only further amplifying this positive economic effect of consumer spending. And in converting an otherwise unutilized site into 30 units of housing, the city of Beverly will benefit from increased property tax revenue to help fund what Mayor Mike Cahill describes as the many high-quality city services and education that our residents expect and need. So this development will really serve as a potential for future redevelopment and beautification, extending beyond Beverly's main business district, and set an example for what the city is looking for when they say they need more affordable housing. Onto the deal's financial feasibility. The Elliott Exchange has a total development cost of $16.5 million, with a specific cost outlined below. To make this deal financially feasible, we will need 8 different financing sources. Going clockwise around the pie chart, you can see that our deal can support $3.98 million in debt. We will qualify for 4 city and state soft debt sources totaling $3.25 million. Between the federal and state LIHTC equity programs, we will generate $9.12 million worth of equity. And to bridge the gap and make this deal financially feasible, we will defer just $177,000 of our $1.5 million developer's fee. And to take a closer look at some of our largest equity and debt sources, we first wanted to highlight the 9% federal tax credit program. And with a LIHTC basis of $14.36 million and a 30% basis boost since our development is in the qualified census tract, once you apply that 9% credit rate for these tax credits, we determined that we could qualify for up to 1.68 million in annual tax credits. However, given our needs for the project and an understanding of the competitiveness of the 9% tax credit programs, as well as per instructions in the case, we will only be applying for 795. So that brings us to 7.79 million in LIHTC equity. We have 1.33 million in state LIHTC equity, and we were able to size our debt so that we had $3.98 million, for which we could sustain over the 40-year project. And here's a quick look at our cash flows, and we just pulled a few years to demonstrate that the increase in net operating income and debt coverage requirements, as well as the distributable cash flows, particularly after we make that last $11,800 payment to pay back the developer's fee there. So here's Grayson with our lessons learned.
Yeah, so the first lesson was just the importance of community-focused development. I'm really taking into account all the stakeholders that don't necessarily have like a financial burden there, but that are still there. So we did this by looking at the city and looking at our residents and trying to find out what we could do to make a development that's really geared towards them, and then in turn how to get them involved by creating practical and impactful partnerships.
And second, we want to make sure we select the right development team. We understand we want to make sure that the project gets done on time and on budget, but we also want to make sure that we maintain our reputation of professionalism throughout every stage of the process.
And lastly, we learned the importance of the federal and state low-income housing tax credit programs, and those in combination with the plethora of soft debt sources we located at the city and state level really help us to earn some profit while also making an impact on the community. So that concludes our presentation. We want to thank you for your time. And we know we moved quickly here, so if you'd like us to go back to any slides, we'd be happy to answer your questions.
I noticed you had 2 elevators. Did you look at the initial expense and the ongoing expense when you made that choice?
Right here with the elevators here. So we actually had a pretty high construction budget overall for this project. It came in at $16.5 million, which came out to around $551,000 per unit, which is very high, even for market rate stuff. But and just in knowing the practices of affordable housing development compared to some market rate stuff, we knew that we needed to have a high budget, because in market rate housing, you can raise your rents by 4 or 5, 6% a year and build up enough cash to fund some like larger capital expenditures or operating expenses, like a rooftop, or like you said, these 2 elevators that may have high costs year over year. But in affordable housing, you can only really raise the rents by how much the income grows, the area median income grows. So we were sort of relying on a high income or a high development budget and the annual replacement reserves to sort of fund some of these larger operating expenses and capital expenditures.
Yeah, and to your point, Mike, we did, even though it is 30 units, we do think 2 elevators is necessary, considering we are gearing this towards seniors. If one of them breaks down, we still want to have one in use in case anybody has a wheelchair or trouble walking. So that was our reasoning behind that.
Thank you.
Talk a little bit about the tie-in to walking trails and kind of an outdoor lifestyle. It seems that's very tied to your commercial space, and can you just talk a little bit about what's available in terms of infrastructure for walking trails locally?
Yeah, so I actually covered part of this one. So one of the parts of the proposal was actually we wanted to incorporate renovated sidewalks along Beckford Street and Elliott Street of our site, and then to also incorporate increased sidewalks, but whether that was by working with the municipality as Beverly to like try to work on building those together with them, or partially putting some funding in ourselves, but try to make that area more walkable and to really mix the grocery store with the Cummings Center as well, because the Cummings Center has a plethora of walking trails around the area that we hope to kind of incorporate as part of our development, even if we weren't necessarily funding them ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And continuing off of that point, you can see here in this aerial map that our site has the red border around it right there at the intersection of Elliott and Beckford Streets, right by McPherson Street. And if you look right above McPherson Street, there's a little path going into the Cummings Center parking lot. So that was one of the paths we wanted to improve, just to improve the access to the site and make it more walkable. And then I think this map will still show it. There's some walking paths around the Bass River, and there's 2 man-made ponds you can see right above our header here in the Cummings Center. So these also have walking paths as well. So we want to provide access for our residents to get outdoors, even in a more urban environment in Beverly.
Yeah, and just one last thing as well. In making this map thing, I actually covered a park with the Elliott Exchange logo, but there actually is some green space right by the site there that I just mistakenly covered, but it has have a couple, I think, like basketball courts and some grass to walk around on, just pretty nearby as well.
And another idea we had is if we are able to secure an athletic footwear retailer, could be nice to have like a local running club. It seems like a pretty central location within Beverly, and there are trails along the train tracks and also throughout the area in Beverly. They could even run along Bass River, and there is street parking on Beckford Street if perhaps our lot fills up, because there are only 30 spaces.
And also the local senior center does offer some excursions as well for residents that are for any senior citizen in the area that's would like to attend them, and it's free. And so we hope to basically work with them to help kind of have their programming in our building regularly to help encourage residents to visit there and to do some of their community engagement things as well.
Again, back on the expense side, the shuttle, how often do you anticipate that running, and do you have a rough estimate of what that might cost?
Yeah, sure. So we originally planned for having it run Monday through Friday, and we think we definitely have to hire, maybe 1 or 2 drivers. And we don't think it needs to be run all day. We think it could have limited hours, but we do think that would be a nice feature. And then any excess cash flow that we may have in excess of our deferred developer fee, we would reinvest that into the project and maybe make it 7 days a week or longer hours. But yeah, you're right. That definitely is an expense that we would have to account for.
How would you anticipate securing an athletic footwear tenant, and do you have any thoughts about what brands or what chains or kind of what that space, what that tenant seems like?
Yeah, so just to start off, one of the things we would do is definitely would canvass a lot of local businesses or businesses in the area, maybe like in Peabody or maybe in Boston or some outskirts there, to try to find like a tenant that we could possibly like replicate or emulate in this site here. And then also working with like some sort of a reputable commercial broker, whether that be JLL, CBRE, but just somebody who could help us find a tenant.
Yes, going off of that point, we definitely want to focus on a small local business here rather than like a national chain or retailer. A lot of the residents have cited that they are growing upset with some housing developers coming in and taking up land that was once used for small business and retail shops and converting that into market rate housing. So in our development proposal, we definitely specified that we want to celebrate these small businesses and provide the space for them while also putting up housing in a mixed use development.
And we did find that there are 2 athletic retailers within a 10-mile radius, but there's none that are specifically in downtown Beverly, and we think we could pull more customers from South Beverly as well.
Yeah, we performed a quick trade area analysis, just like back of the envelope calculations, to determine if this would be the rent would justify their store sales. So yeah, we identified 2 competitors in the area, but we think its proximity to the Cummings Center, along with the main thoroughfare along Cabot Streets and Rantel Streets in Beverly, would bring a lot of traffic to this site.
Do you have any thoughts about how you optimize the soft funds on the project? How you arrived at what different dollar amounts you'd be applying for each of them?
Yes, so this was a definitely arduous process. There were a lot of different soft debt sources to look through, both from the city of Beverly and the state of Massachusetts. And a lot of them had certain requirements for which we had to determine if our development would qualify. The ones that we qualified for actually had some affordability requirements, both at the AMI level. We needed to meet our rents needed to be offered at certain AMI levels, and they needed to remain affordable for a certain number of years. So off the top of my head, I believe the Housing Stabilization Fund, you need to remain affordable for 50 years. And there was another fund in here that required us to be affordable for 30 years. So in our understanding, there's a 10-year compliance period with the tax credits and generally a 20-year compliance period to remain affordable if you take these tax credits and seek in a housing finance agency lender. But as a nonprofit developer and keeping in compliance with these soft debt sources, we look to keep this affordable as long as possible. And to address your point on determining how much we'd qualified for, a lot of these soft debt sources had funding limits. So it was X number of dollars per unit. It was the lesser of X number of dollars per unit, or $1 million, or $1.5 million, or $250,000. And actually for the Beverly Affordable Housing Trust Fund, we assumed that we'd qualify for $250,000 from this soft debt source. And that assumption was based on the two projects that they funded in 2018 were both for $250,000 as well.
And we also thought about talking to the city about improving the sidewalks and seeing if that would make us eligible for the MassWorks infrastructure grant. That's just another source that we came across that, we weren't exactly sure, so we wanted to be conservative and didn't include it in this sources and uses, but thought it could potentially be used.
Your one beds are very generous in size. Is there laundry in the units? And how'd you come to that square footage?
Yeah, so we realized that it might seem big, but we do want to provide these seniors with enough room to age in place and really have a space that they can, actually enjoy living in. And to your point about the laundry, we want to make, I think we said one or two large laundry rooms throughout the whole building, just as an added place where seniors can socialize. Because as I said before, isolation is not a great thing for anybody really. So just another opportunity there. And also one other thing, we thought we would have the one laundry room or the two laundry rooms closer to the 8 designated disabled units, just to make it easier for those folks.
We were impressed by, as we said during one of the breaks, by all the work that the teams did. And so appreciate all of that. We think that we agreed that Golden Eagle Development was our first choice. But we want to be able to give BCG the shoe honorable mention. And then our third choice, of course, then would be the Urban Planning Partners, Horizon Oasis.
To me, they all, several individuals on all of the teams really stood out as being, beyond college years. You felt like they had been in the business in a sense, so just all three very impressive teams.
I just think it was tremendously impressive effort overall. I mean, the fact that they were able to do this amount of work and produce what felt like several, seemingly very realistic and feasible developments. That whether you're a resource allocator or on the capital side or on the development side, feels like conversations you have every day. Was tremendously impressive and tremendously impressive under the circumstances that we're all working under. Just stunning. Trying to get this balance between feasibility and innovation, is really one of the biggest challenges in the business, and we saw that in the presentations. And so some were very strong on aspiration, and others were stronger on kind of execution. Even though we picked Urban Planning Partners third, we thought there was a lot of meat in their plan and a lot of aspiration in what they were looking to try and accomplish. And some of the graphic design sense, well, I don't know, Crystal, why don't I defer to you on the specifics?
We thought, as Adam was saying, that Urban Planning Partners had really great graphics, and we thought that they had, they expressed, let me use an I statement. I thought that they expressed the most sincerity around understanding the complexity of doing these deals. And so I appreciated that. Any advice to them around their specific proposal would relate a lot to just thinking about the feasibility of having all of those kind of uses together, and what that meant in the context also in a larger neighborhood. And so, for instance, having a fitness center across the street from a gym is probably not the best idea. But I understand the aspiration of wanting to do that.
I would just, note to them that, their ideas were tremendous. They were just constrained by what site was there and the density of the site, and just the physical size of the site. But their ideas would translate great into a larger development.
Three of us were really taken by the clear amount of effort that went into the architectural rendering and graphic aspect of their proposal. It really was just quite a standout, even though we didn't ultimately pick it.
So for the shoe, we thought that it came across in their proposal that they'd done a lot of thinking around the commercial space and how that fit into the community. So we appreciated that. Even though they talked about it as a bagel shop, they did talk a lot. They did then clarify what they were hoping for, even if it wasn't a bagel shop, and how that could fit into the neighborhood. And the amenity wasn't just for the building, it was for the neighborhood. And so we appreciated that. Also appreciated that they really seemed to understand their community partners and what those partners could bring to the development. We talked a little about how they operated as a team and everybody had their particular expertise. And so that was helpful and came across. And then some of the challenges with their proposal was just a mix of the intergenerational mix. Felt like a bit of a challenge in a 30-unit building. And so we thought that was that was one of the challenges that we had talked about.
Earlier, I think that's another development where, given a larger site, given a little bit more flexibility in terms of the size and scale, we think that model would work just fine. But given the constraints of the case, we thought the integration of those 3-bedroom units was a little bit challenging. I was struck by how they started with a vision for the commercial space of a Trader Joe's, and then kind of lensed down to the reality of the site and the market, and understood, what can we do with that space that is true to that vision: bodega, deli, bagel store, all of which seemed perfect, like a very reasonable thesis, but well tailored to the boundaries of the actual site itself. I think we liked that.
Say that the thing that I appreciated about BCG was their passion for the community and having the project be part of the community and help build community within the project. So Golden Eagle, we just felt like their presentation was the most feasible. Really appreciated that they came and just declared the building a senior project. We thought that that was a good use for that scale, and therefore ended up with a bunch of 1-bedrooms, and sort of understood that. We thought that the work that Golden Eagle did, we didn't really see the seniors really participating in the commercial space. It wasn't an amenity of the building, but it was more amenity of the neighborhood. We thought that the work that they did thinking about an athletic footwear store was kind of interesting and a little innovative in the sense that it took into account all the other businesses around the neighborhood. And they were the only team that brought up transit. And so that resonated with me anyway. That's one of the real benefits of Beverly. They're a transit-rich community.
Well, I thought that from their presentation, maybe even, I would say, I felt like they knew enough about the surrounding community, like they had actually physically been to the community. He noted that he covered over a park with one of his labels. He noted a walking trail. He noted that he had the particular street that there was in fact off-street parking available, for his retail customers. So I just thought they really had a very strong command of the overall picture of where they were developing.
They seem very passionate about the commercial and market research aspect of it. I don't know if somebody loves footwear, athletic footwear, or somebody just loves commercial real estate underwriting, but they seemed very excited, and it came through both in the narrative and in the presentation that thinking about that athletic footwear store got their juices going.
Yeah, I thought they tied it. They even mentioned this, the other residential building outside of Cummins, which is the Elliott Landing, I think. So they just had a command of the neighborhood, I thought.